Happy Saturday, everyone. Welcome to Byte of the Week. I'm Daniel Schaefer, and we're on for your weekly digest of all things happening in tech in the Bay Area and beyond. So let's get started. What's new? What happened this week? This was actually a pretty good week in the news. Nothing dramatic happened, no terrible leaks, no terrible hacks, no scandals from Uber, believe it or not. I haven't looked into that, but I didn't no significant scandals that came across my screen this week. So I think it's the world is in a good place. So the first thing that came up that I was really excited about, there's a company called Oceangate, and they just announced some plans to send people to visit the wreckage of the Titanic. Now, nobody has been to the Titanic in a while, probably about a decade or so, and of the people that have visited it since it sank over 100 years ago, only about only about 200 people have actually visited since then, which is fewer people than have been to space. And as I'm sure you know, the bottom of the ocean is a very forbidding place. It's about as hostile to life, or I should say, it's as hostile to human life as space, in that it's just deadly if you or it's instant death if you're like outside of your suit or outside of something that can protect you from the immense pressure. Kind of converse to space, which is dangerous because of the lack of pressure. But that's a tangent. So Oceangate has the submarine. They're going to start sending people there next year. They're actually making a business out of it. And so the submarine that they're making holds 5 passengers per trip. And the price tag, as you can imagine, is going to be pretty steep. It's going to be a little over, if I recall correctly, a little over $100,000. If you want to get a ride on that, it will cost you a little over $105,000. Now, it's kind of a random amount. Why 105,000 in that? Why that much in particular? Why not $99,999? Well, a cool reason why the price of the ticket is that much. They priced it at that particular number because that is the inflation adjusted price for how much a first class ticket in the Vanderbilt suite of the Titanic was back then on that voyage. Back then, the nominal price was $4,350. So obviously, a lot of inflation has happened since then, and I think that probably people with the same amount of net worth could afford that suite back then as will be affording it now. But it's pretty exciting. They've sold out their tickets already. They're planning to do a bunch of trips next year. So I was very excited to see that. I think that the Titanic is something that, fascinates a lot of people. The unsinkable ship that ended up being a friendly reminder that anything built by a human certainly is fallible. A good lesson in humility for the rest of us. The second bit of news that came up today, or sorry, that came up in the last week, these past 6 or 7 days, is that Nvidia and Bosch are teaming up together to make a self-driving computer that takes advantage of some particular AI. Now, okay, not a day goes by, or I should say, not a week goes by, when we hear about, oh, this and this company are pairing up to do some self-driving tech. It's a really, really neat opportunity for them. Bosch makes supplies for the auto industry, but not cars itself. The product that they're working on together is going to power the first single chip processor that can manage level 4 autonomous driving. Now, if you're not familiar with what level 4 or what the levels of autonomous driving are, I will tell you that. Level 0 is that there is no autonomy at all. Level 1 is that a driver needs to be ready to take control at any time, but it could still handle things largely on its own, like parking assistance and things like that. Level 2, I'm reading from Wikipedia, by the way. Level 2 is the driver is obliged to detect objects and events and respond if the automated system fails to respond properly. The automated system executes accelerating, braking, and steering. So that's probably best suited to like highway driving, for example. Level 4 is the automated system can control the vehicle in all but a few environments, such as severe weather. So that means, city driving, navigating large parking lots where there's lots of cars around. Highways, obviously, still pretty easy. And so that's like almost 100% self-driving. It's very, very close. And then level 5 is a car is totally smart, totally autonomous, can go from A to B regardless of the weather, regardless of the environment, the traffic, and so on. So we're still a ways off from level 5 yet, but that is coming, and folks like Nvidia and Bosch are doing what they can to bring that closer to us. Now, the next story, I obviously geek out quite a bit for SpaceX. I'm very excited for pretty much everything that they do, as I think most people are. And while we tend to get caught up in the stories about like, oh, they're sending people to the moon like we did, or around the moon technically, like we did in a previous week, we have to remember that they also need to like do things that generate revenue and like make business sense for them. And so one of those things is that they put stuff in space, and they do they do that for all sorts of people. NASA is obviously a huge client. They refueled the space station for them, and so on. And so they helped another client this week, a telecommunications company called Echostar. They put one of their satellites in space, and it was a bigger than usual payload. It's bigger than what they usually launch, and so there was they actually like didn't try to reuse the rocket, or at least like the first stage of the rocket, as they do sometimes with smaller payloads. One other interesting thing that popped up in the last few days, I saw Netflix is going to get rid of their 5-star rating system, and they're going to be replacing it with a simple thumbs up, thumbs down. Now, there have been folks on the internet speculating that this is because Amy Schumer's comedy special got a lot of 1-star reviews, and I can't comment on that because I haven't seen it, but that happens, I guess, right? So the reasoning for that doesn't really make sense to me. I think that you can get much more nuanced data on your customers' preferences if you give them the ability to rate in a set of on a spectrum of like 1 to 5, as opposed to just thumbs up and thumbs down. I think that taking away that ability to do somewhere in the 5 stars sort of hurts your customers also, in that it keeps them from being able to crowdsource recommendations. A lot of times if you go on and you're like, maybe I'll watch an Amy Schumer comedy special, and then you see that it has a bunch of 1 stars, maybe you won't. And so on for your 3s, your 4s, your 5s. That's sort of some crowdsourced wisdom that's built right into the service for you, so you don't have to go to Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb or some other website to get your the consensus opinion of folks on the internet. Having said all that, I am certainly not involved with the decision or with the conversations that went into making that decision. I'm sure that the folks working there have an idea of what they're doing. Maybe they just don't want Amy Schumer to look bad. And so allegedly, so they say, the 5-star rating system will be going away soon, and now we will only be able to thumbs up or thumbs down what we see. So that's interesting. I nominally look forward to getting a peek at that new UI when it comes out to the world at some point. And the last story for this week is about a company called Mulesoft, which just had its IPO. It crushed Snap Incorporated's IPO from a previous week, and it's interesting. So Mulesoft, maybe not a very familiar company to most people like Snap. I mostly knew them because I live near the Caltrain station in San Francisco, and they have a lot of advertisements there that's saying like, hey, we're hiring, come work for us. And I was like, Mulesoft, didn't I download some malware from them back in the day? But I think that was a different company. So, but I was like, oh, like, and it's pretty common for companies to advertise at the Caltrain station that they're hiring, because a ton of people pass by and use the Caltrain station for their transportation. So I was like, what's MuleSoft? And And then all of a sudden, a couple weeks later, a couple weeks after I saw those advertisements, then they went public, and I was like, whoa, okay, well, maybe I should look this up. So basically what they do is they help companies manage their APIs. Now, it's a much more significant task than you might think, and a lot more involved, especially given that the whole idea of APIs is that it's sort of plug and play. And if you have a complicated API, you're probably doing it wrong. You're doing a disservice to your customers. But the truth is that a lot of products need integration with other products with their APIs and so on. And it just gets complicated if you don't have the support of a company like Mulesoft, which helps with that, to help you do that task. So they've clearly carved out a very strong niche for themselves. They had their IPO this week. To be honest, I haven't looked at the price, and I haven't looked at their fundamentals to see if it's like something that I'm going to buy some of myself, but I suspect not, since it's like it's too late to get that first day pop. So we'll see. If the fundamentals are strong, maybe I'll pick some up. And yeah, that's all for this week. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next week.